Hey, fam. It's one of your co-hosts. It's Carolina. Hope you guys are doing good, enjoying the season. We're super excited with the turnout. We had a lot of first-time features of directors who've been on the show, which gets us really excited and motivated as we're continuing on working on our first feature film. So we really hope you guys have been enjoying that too, and feeling that positive energy to go and make it happen. And the reason why it's just me, if you haven't heard on our last podcast episode with Raquel, that I got this really nice full-time industry gig that I've worked really hard to get something in the industry that I feel like will help me grow. I'm kind of focused in the post-production um, world, which is new to me, and really learning how films get distributed, which is really cool. But that being said, Tessa and I have opposite schedules right now, which makes things a little challenging for the pod. But we don't want to stop. We want to do this for as long as we can, even with the crazy pre-production stuff, because we think it's important to share our journey as raw and real. And right now, it's a little crazy, and that's okay. So that's why it's just me. So you might have some solo episodes where it might just be her because we don't want to miss the fabulous guests that come through. And yeah, that being said, we have another winner of a guest who happens to be an award-winning director, Emmy-nominated producer, and founder of Tello Films. Tello Films, by the way, she just happens to have made her own SVOD platform, which is huge. And I'm going to have a lot of questions because that's not easy to do. And it just happens to, also, it focuses on lesbian queer content, which we love, and is the first LGBTQ network to receive an Emmy nomination. So just fucking incredible, if I could say so. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Miss Christin Baker on the podcast.
Hello.
Hey, Christin.
Hey.
Oh, thank you for bearing with me on that long intro. Just need to update
I
the
should
fam.
probably cut it down.
No. You've done so much. Definitely excited to pick your brain on all the things, but I first do want to get back to the foundings of Tello Films
Yeah.
and how that came about. And I'm gonna just kind of also input what SVOT even means and like why that's so cool to have done that yourself. But yeah, just want to go back into how you formed Tello.
Yeah, sure. So Tello's about, I think it's like 13 years old now. So we're actually one of the oldest streaming platforms that's out there. We actually started right around the time that Hulu was doing the paywall. A lot of people don't remember Hulu was totally free and a what they didn't call it an AVOD back then, but
Mhm.
and then they realized like, oh, we should probably charge for this and have commercials on here. And then right around that same time, and Netflix was releasing House of Cards, and so we were sort of oh, there's other people charging for content because it was
Yeah.
also like when YouTube had like really hit and they had all these like crazy rules like nothing on YouTube should be longer than 30 seconds and you should chop up everything, and it was really interesting and kind
Yeah.
of in reflecting on it. But yeah, so we I started it um because I felt like there was a lack of specifically queer female representation, um, and really wanted to have a place that could where we could I could create our stories and people would know what they were getting, and then we could also using a payment method give money back to people who are making content for the community. So that's how it
Mm.
started. We started SVOD, and then now we've moved into SVOD and TVOD, so we can do both on the site.
Oh, wow. Can
Yeah.
you differentiate? So SVOD, I know it's subscription on
Hmm.
demand. So again, like just what you were saying, it's having a subscription
Yeah, it's like
payment,
Netflix.
like
Yeah,
Netflix,
Netflix is
Hulu,
SVOD.
HBO, everyone's
Yep,
SVOD. So then
yep.
TVOD, is that
TVAD is
based on
transactional video on demand, so that's rent or buy. So like
uh
iTunes,
yeah,
when you buy
Prime,
movies on there, it's a TVOD. Prime has both, right? You'll see like, oh, this is
right.
for rent or buy, oh, or this is part of Prime. So they have an SVOD and a TVOD situation. Hulu only has, I mean, technically, Hulu kind of sits between an AVOD and an SVOD because if you pay enough, you don't have commercials. But if
Right.
you don't, then it's AVOD. But traditionally, advertising video on demand is it's free, but you have to watch commercials. And then there's
Right.
I think there's called premium. I think it's called premium SVOD or premium TVOD, and that's what Disney is doing when you have to be a subscriber to Disney Plus and then you pay more for one of their movies that's just been released. Um,
Oh,
and then
okay.
there's the one that's I'm gonna forget the name, but it's basically it's I think it should just be called like linear TV, but it's like Pluto or one of those that actually has programming. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and so that has another acronym, and it's totally escaping me right now, but I'm sure some nice person will remind me of what it is. But it's essentially like they program it, you can go in and watch it, and it also has commercials as well. So those are the
Okay.
different
Yeah.
kinds of sort of online.
Kind of reminds me of broadcasting a little bit, but it's not because it's like like you said on a digital kind of
Yeah,
space. Yeah.
it's
Okay.
OTT. Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, fam. You can there's so many ways to distribute content, which I think is really cool. Like technology has given us that gift and everyone now at the world in general is everyone's has the ability to access and have a phone. And so that's why it's just booming. The industry, the market's booming. And I didn't know that there's now these premium
yeah,
versions, which it's just, I mean, I'm not surprised. It's probably just going to continue to grow. And I think that's, I mean, you've been 13 years in the game of that. So
yeah.
what's I guess something that you're looking to continue to do with your platform specifically, and can our listeners who are creating content that speak to the platform submit any at all? How would that work? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we have a contact form on the site. So if you have a short or a feature or like a digital series, you can use the contact form, and then we obviously like quality check and curate when we have submissions, and then but we also use distributors and go through, um, you know, sales folks to
Mhm.
get our content, and we do have a flat fee for a short. We just pay a straight up licensing fee of $50.
Oh,
Um, and then we have
okay.
it. I think our contract right now is for 18 months. And then, if we want to renew it or you want to renew it, we then pay you another $50. So,
That's so
but and
cool to
then
host like your short film right on the
yeah,
platform.
yep, yeah. And so and then for features or for like longer series, we pay 26 cents per minute or per
Mhm.
hour, excuse me, of your content streamed, and we pay out quarterly. And
Mhm.
then it also depends on like if it's exclusive or not. Like there's a lot of other
Right.
boxes, but just in general, like that's kind of how it works.
No, that's so cool. I think yeah, we have a good community here that listens, and I feel like they can look into that and see if it fits.
Please
That
do. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. I wanted to highlight your 2017 series Sex and Execs, which earned the,
Yes.
the Emmy nomination for
Yep.
an outstanding actress. I'm going to just say this whole thing because it's so great. In a short
Oh
form
yeah.
comedy or drama series, she was Austin Powers actress Mindy Sterling. And you also in 2019, your other series, Riley Para, she received 2 Emmy nominations, or the series is Riley Para,
Right.
which received 2 Emmy nominations as well. So,
Correct.
like, that's so wild to me, and then still it feels like so like intangible in a way, if that makes sense, where it
Yeah,
kind of like we're focused in features too, primarily right now. So I'm not even delving into series world, but how, okay, first of all,
yeah.
congrats. And how does
Thank
that
you.
even like
I
happen
know.
through
I
through
don't know.
all of that?
I still don't know. It's interesting. So we were submitting to the Emmys early on in the process. Like now you have like Better Call Saul, The Walking Dead,
Yeah.
Carpool Karaoke. You have like all these people who with these like much bigger budgets submitting. But in the early days, short form was like really, I felt like it was more accessible and attainable to get an Emmy nomination for like a little like plucky series like ours. And I think Mindy's came because people just love Mindy. And she
That's
got,
amazing.
so we submitted, I'm a member of the TV Academy, so I'm an Emmy voter. And so we get one submission and then you pay for other submissions on top of that. And then there's this whole other process of like the for your consideration season and all of that stuff, which again, like we just don't have as money to put behind. But I think part of it was, we did upload Sex and Execs to like a digital platform that the Emmys have where people can watch them. And then yeah, Mindy was just like people love her as they should. She's amazing. And so I think we were just like also like really lucky. We did a small digital campaign as well. Like we tried our best to utilize Facebook and Instagram
Right.
to, like put some stuff up before the Emmy voters. Because to do a proper like e-blast or an event is like thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. So we
Right.
couldn't do that, but we did our best in our own like little guerrilla campaign. And then also like they've changed it now, but Riley Pryor was nominated for a daytime Emmy, and so they daytime Emmys had like whole digital series um, categories. And so
Mm.
a whole
Mhm.
bunch of us had submitted for that. I think they have now since changed it, and only children's programming can be nominated for a daytime Emmy. And then if it's like not children and family, it's then you have to go to like the proper Emmys. But they had tons of categories that I don't know that they have anymore for digital series. So
Wow.
yeah, so there's just this onslaught of like people like me who are making indie content that there was a big barrier of entry, and we just found this like little space, and we were like, aha! And then like in 2 years, like everyone was off to the races and had kind of figured it out. And
But
so
I
it's
think that's
yeah,
great to highlight that as like again, our community is really independent. And, if you are trying to, I guess something we've said on the show before too is like trying to get your foot in the door, like keep looking for what's new out there. And can
yeah,
you, make that kind of either platform or style of shooting work for you, and be able to be one of the first. That's a great way to kind of
yeah,
like the nascent YouTube and all of that, just getting yourself kind of that head leg up. That's, yeah, no, it
yeah.
totally makes sense, and I think that's smart and something to keep doing. Stay open and stay like in tune with where the industry is going.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just also like, again, if it's not too if the barrier of entry isn't too huge, might as well because you just like never know. Like one of my
Right.
movies, I Hate New Year's, that came out in 2020, I submitted it for an Oscar because there was like a little loophole because of the pandemic that you could get like, so in order to qualify for the Oscars, you have to do a certain run at like a certain TV or a certain theater, or you can get into one of the film festivals. I think for like a short or something like that that's like Oscar
Yeah.
qualifying, and then you can submit. Well, I got this email from like this theater that was like, hey, we can give you a letter that says you were supposed to screen here, but you didn't because of the pandemic. And I was like, for, X number of dollars. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm also supporting a theater that normally would have had all of this revenue that was like a
Mm.
small theater, during the pandemic. So I was like, okay. And it was for a fraction of what it would have cost me to actually run the movie in the theater. And then I ended up like getting the letter, and I really wanted to submit. I mean, I really wanted to submit for original song because we had some amazing music in there. So I sent it in, And then the Academy wrote back and they're like, hey, not a problem. It's $10,000 to upload the movie onto our site. And I was just like, oh no. So I just called them and I was like,
Really?
yeah, I think I emailed and then I called and I got this like super sweet guy and I was like, look, we're a tiny indie production. I can't afford $10,000 to like upload to your site. Is there any way like could you give me a significant discount? Could you, do this? Cause like, I have the letter from the theater and the guy was like so nice. He was like, well, let me see if like you could qualify for like our scholarship. And so I had to write like this letter and I was able to submit the movie and because the Oscars, they don't charge you for multiple submissions. So I was like, well, heck, I'll just put everyone in. And there's a lot of other things that you have to do for original song.
Huh.
Um, but I was just like, why not?
Right. Of course.
You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah,
have
of
like
course.
a very popular actress who's fantastic named Candace Kane. And I thought, and who's trans, like, I was like, if the trans community got behind, like, let's have a trans actor. Like, you just never know what crazy thing could happen if you submit. And I will also say this, always pick up the phone and call people. I have had the best luck, like I did with the Oscars, and I did it with the Emmys at one point in time too, where I was like, I had questions, I needed to know information, and I just picked up the phone and called people, and I have always had the best luck. Like email's great, email and phone call is the way to
Another
go.
level.
So yeah, so
No,
don't
it
be
makes
intimidated by
sense.
like
Yeah.
people if you think you're too small or like, oh, your project isn't whatever, pick up the phone. You just never know. And people want to be nice, they want to help you.
No, I again, like, I feel like it's easy for us, smaller teams, small independent crews and all that to think like, oh, there's just no way like we could even
Yeah.
like qualify for an Oscar. Like there's just no way. And it's like, well, do you really know that? And like I think
Right.
go like you did that leg up. It's like, how are you going to win the lottery if you don't buy the ticket? Like you
Right.
went to the site, you looked like that's your way of like buying the ticket, to use this poor analogy. But
Yeah.
it's essentially, I think we do kind of put barriers in front of ourselves sometimes to go for it, or like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not my time or it's not this, but you
Yeah.
don't know. And like I love that you said, I'm like, why doesn't I've done that too in our own instances? Like, why not just like submit for all of, if we're already here, why aren't we submitting? Like,
Exactly.
okay, like the worst what happens, we don't get in. That's
You don't get
fine.
in. You don't get it. You don't get in. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good point and something I'm definitely going to use as a takeaway as we like finish our feature and look at like where it could really go and not limit
Yeah.
ourselves. I think that's really empowering. And on that note, yeah, we're going to be in the SAG ultra low budget kind of category. We're going back and forth on SAG or no SAG for us.
I
And I
think that's a
know,
great question. I've done both. I've done both ultra low and I've done non-union.
okay, yeah. So this is, I'm gonna put it out here because
Go
we're
for it.
talking.
Yeah, we are.
Um and I think we're still gonna go non-union, and this is why. So the reason that would motivate us to go on a SAG ultra low budget, of course, is to get fabulous talent that will
Right.
of course help bring in investors. And like
Yep.
that is something that I've heard time and time and again, and I know that's definitely a smart voyage into getting crowdfunding and getting your film made, and having really talented people attach. Now, in our case, we're also starring it. This is why we went out to create this film.
Oh, got it.
So, of course, we actually do know some really talented, I wouldn't say maybe super famous people, but really talented, well known in their spaces, actors that we would love to attach that would have to make our project SAG, but it wouldn't be replacing our parts in it. And so it's just like that battle with, it would raise our budget a bit more, which we could fundraise. But then again, it's like it just keeps making our budget more and more expensive if we can somehow raise the 40K, where I'm not shy to share, of the 40K that we need. and not have to, lose what we set out for this first feature film of ours. And then hopefully we can like show our chops and be able to raise more and make the next one SAG and continue on that journey. But that's like the only reason why I think we've seen that would make us go SAG, is to like attach those other people that we have in mind. It's not even like a confirmed kind of thing. Like I would definitely want to have more conversations as the director and see if it's actually a good fit. So that's kind of what, yeah, you feel like you're in a kind of that situation where if you don't have one, you can't have the other. And that's the only reason why I get stuck with like feeling like I need to go SAG for this, is like, oh well, we won't be able to raise this amount of money if maybe we don't have that name attached. But I feel like we feel like we can at this point in time.
Yeah, I would definitely say, like, if you know, it's I have not found that always having like names attached will result in the larger budget that you're looking for, unless it's, like super A-list talent. Um, and so I just, and
Yeah.
if you don't like the other people, I actually had a call with a guy recently who was kind of positing the same question. Now, I think he wants to be in it and he's SAG, so he has to do SAG. But his whole thing was, I think I could get like this person and this person, um, and then I hear that will get me investors. And I was like, cool. Do you know investors? Oh, like already that you can call?
Yeah.
And he was like, no. And I was like, then it's not going to do you any good. Like there are these like magical pools of investors that people know about
Mhm.
that have like that are in the world. But
Yeah.
until you can tap into that and go to said magical pool of investors, getting a name isn't going to do you any good. It's not like someone suddenly sees this person's name attached to your project and goes,
The
huh,
gates are
I'm going to
open.
give you $200,000 because
Yeah.
you have, Chris Hemsworth or whatever. Like, if you can't make the call to those investors already, then you can
Right.
get any name that you want and it doesn't matter. Maybe you could do crowdfunding and get his fan base or get their fan base, but
Right.
you would have to make sure that like they're you know, putting it out on their socials. Like it's just so, yeah, if you don't need a name, I think the route that you're going is really smart. I really
Oh,
do.
that's so
Like
good to hear.
I would not pull a SAG contract. I'm going into production August 4th and I'm not pulling a SAG contract. It'll be the second time.
Oh my gosh.
Now earlier this year, back in March, I pulled a SAG contract and but it's just like pension and health and
Yep.
fringes and workman's comp and all the things that come with that. It's cost prohibitive for someone who's making a 40K movie. You can't do it. Now, if you, I do know they have, and I think it's for 20K. There is a micro budget that you can do. You've probably looked into it.
Oh yeah. I've worked on
Yeah.
one too. And I've like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it came with its own set of hurdles too, which,
Did it? Okay.
I'm grateful that there's a union to, again, as also an actor, and I'm not union, but I understand like why it's there. It's so beneficial.
Right.
But I've run into some roadblocks, like doing such a small budget, you don't get like a person to call. Like I've done the calling and I've done like,
Yeah.
because I'm someone who will get on the phone. I'm not shy to do that, ask questions. And it's just
Yeah.
like I got the run around but it was fine. Like honestly, the paperwork and stuff was pretty straightforward, not to dissuade anyone from that, because it's totally
Yeah.
fine and doable.
Yeah.
But I just felt like I'm like, all right, the paperwork, but then upping it, we can't do it for 20K. And if we wanted any kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, actually, this is a question, is the
Mm.
like any chance of distribution to profit in any way that you can't do, right? Because like commercially it can't be like shown or something in that
Oh,
wording.
I actually haven't read that about micro or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I don't know that. That's interesting. I did not know that.
See, I look for those things as the producer. I'm like,
Oh,
where
that's
where can
interesting.
I
Okay.
distribute this? Like,
Yeah, then it's truly pointless. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
like it's
yeah, yeah,
great
yeah.
if it's a short film, and I think I would totally recommend the micro budget if if like it's not gonna cost you an arm and a leg to do and take away from your budget, and you want to have SAG people involved, then yeah, like that's fine. You're
Yeah,
probably not gonna monopolize off of that, but as a
right.
feature, I would love that option, if
I
we're
feel
able
like I
to.
read an article that said they created that because there were a lot of YouTubers who are like really popular, and they were making things like little short things for like
Yeah.
under that, and their friends who were SAG who wanted to do it because it would help them for exposure weren't able to do it because they were like, well, I'm sorry, I can't do this. And so that was one of the reasons they created that level.
Okay. I did not know
That
that.
that's what I read. I just, when I
Yeah.
was doing my research on it, that's what I read. So there might be some things that like you can't do a theatrical distribution for it, or you can't,
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I think that was smart that you
That's
looked into it. But I think you're making the right absolutely, you are making the right choice. The fewer, there's enough headaches that happen in making a feature. So if you can take off an entire like
yeah.
section of that, which is like, as you know, SAG paperwork,
Well, now with
applying for
COVID,
it.
like whatever other additional costs that takes for testing,
Yep.
again, I've had other people have connected with, and they tell me it's doable. It's not that bad. Just raise more money for it. But I want to keep this as
Don't
small
don't
and
you love the
contained.
just, but Karen, like, don't you love that just raise more money for it? You're like, oh, is that all I need to
That's
do?
all I
Is
need.
that all I need to do to solve that problem? Like, whenever someone
Yeah.
says that, I just want to punch him in the throat. I was like, do you know how hard it was to get what I have? And then your answer to solve my problem is, oh, just go get more money. It's like, oh, my tree hasn't bloomed yet, but when the money tree does, I'll go
Yeah.
grab it. I'm like, oh, for Pete's sake. Like,
I
that's
know.
absolutely the most infuriating answer.
Response. I know.
I
I
will
know.
never give anyone or you that response because it's not a real one at all.
No, it's like, sure, 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 sure. That's like my
Yeah.
response
Oh,
always.
oh, is that
Like,
all
oh
I need
yeah,
to
that's
do?
all I need
Oh,
to do.
thank you.
I
Woo, if only I'd
know.
talked to you 6 months earlier. Jeez.
It's like, and granted, those people have been successful in their own ways about it, but I do think it's like it comes again with time, with knowing investors, with knowing, and I
Yeah.
think those people would be gracious enough to connect me. So I'm not gonna speak, ill of that whole circumstance, but I don't think it's working for what we're trying to do. I
Yeah.
really, it just doesn't fit, doesn't make sense. It's not, it's making, yeah, more headaches, more problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're gonna do crowdfunding of Fam. You will hear more than enough about it when we fully launch. And
Good luck. God bless.
yes, 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 yes. And that's why like these schedules and adjusting, we're taking our time to, do it once and do it right. That's the goal. Like
Yeah.
we've soft launched our own for bigger type of organizations, and you've inspired me like, let me try and get these phone numbers. Like I think that's what I need to do personally, is get on the phone with people and like really
Hmm.
share why I'm passionate about it. But yeah, crowdfunding, we have we're feeling better. We think we're going to get a team involved to really
Oh,
just
good. Have you
do
ever done
it.
one before?
No, not for
I
my
can
own.
listen. I can give you a whole. We can do a whole podcast around crowdfunding because I've done a ton of them. I can tell you all the horrible mistakes that I've made,
Oh my
how
gosh.
I've been amazingly successful and I have been not successful. I will say this, do not do t-shirts.
Thank you. I do not want to do
Do
t-shirts.
not do t-shirts no matter
Thank
what
you.
someone sells you. Don't do
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Kristen, we will have to do a part 2. You're coming back next season. We
Happy
will.
to. I've made all the dumb mistakes for crowdfunding and I am more than happy, and I've done a lot of panels on it and stuff like that. So in fact, I have, let me just, I mean, people can't see this on the podcast, but what you are looking at are a bunch of envelopes
Yep.
for that I have to send out for script cover pages that were signed that I gave away, or not
Oh
gave away, but I
my gosh.
sold as part of my last crowdfunding campaign that I did in, when did I do that? February, I think. Anyway, and so I'm fulfilling, it's a Christmas movie. So I'm doing a Christmas in July fulfillment of some of the perks.
Wait, what's
And
the
then,
title? Because I think I saw it on your IMDb and I'm very excited about it.
well, I had this is my fourth holiday LGBTQ holiday rom-com. So this most recent one is called Merry and Gay.
I don't know if that's the one I saw.
Well,
That
I've
was
Season of Love, I Hate New Year's, Christmas at the Ranch, and Mary and Gay.
I
Those are
think it
those are
no,
the
then I
4.
think it was Mary and Gay, and I was like, "Wait, this is like LGBTQ meets Hallmark meets like everything I want."
Yeah, they
Like
all are.
a
Yeah,
Chris
yeah.
yeah, I love it. It's
They're all
like
very
just
Hallmarky.
yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because
Thank
who
you,
doesn't
thank you.
love watching a good Hallmark, like good Hallmark Christmas movie where you're like,
Exactly.
yes, I want to see this small town, like, you know,
Yep.
girl come and meet the love, and it's just so great. I was looking through your stuff, and that was
Oh,
really
cool.
cool.
Right on. Thank
I
you.
I loved that. So we might have to like, yeah, put some Christmas time blasts around that time because
Yes,
yes,
absolutely. Well,
here for
hopefully it'll be
that.
coming out on something big and important this holiday season. So we're just finishing up post right now on it.
Hey fam, have you heard us raving about Jambox yet? Because let me tell you, it's such an amazing tool for filmmakers, podcasters, advertisers, and anyone who needs music for their projects.
Jambox.io is so versatile. They've got songs and sound effects, organized by artist, genre, mood, and tags.
And they're actually affordable. For as little as $9.99 a month for independent creators, $6 a month for students, or $19.99 a song, you can choose whether a subscription-based membership or a la carte pricing works better for you. And they're flexible. For individual creators to commercial to advertising to theatrical release, they've got you covered.
Plus, they're constantly growing and evolving, with new songs and playlists all the time and customer service on point. They really do have everything you need.
We've been working with them for a while now and couldn't be happier. That's why we have a special coupon code for our listeners.
For 10% off your purchase, make sure you enter code FEMME10 at checkout. That's FEMME, F-E-M-M-E 10 at jambox.io, where they connect creators with ridiculously good music and sound effects.
That's very exciting, and we're gonna have like a crowdfunding sesh because like yeah, we're gonna learn so
Real.
much. A
For
real
happy. Yes.
that's amazing. But to go into like again our budget, I mean, I'm curious, like with the budgets you've worked with and you've been able to
Mhm.
produce high quality content at a low budget output.
Yeah.
Is it's such a stupid question, honestly. Like, what's the secret sauce? Like, other than, writing a story that isn't, psychotic to your limits and,
Right. That's the first one. Yeah,
yeah,
writing
right.
something that works for you. Um, I mean, I think the secret is uh, finding your team
hmm
that will come who you can't pay enough
Yep.
at,
We have a team
at
attached.
the
That's
moment.
also why we're not
Yeah,
like, I don't feel reliant to go SAG or whatever. Like, we have this strong, independent team
yeah,
that I'm so psyched for, mainly women, holla, FemmeRegard. And
nice.
we're like, let's go, let's make this movie. So I'm
Yeah,
glad that you said that because that is a strength that we also like
yeah.
have coupled in our team. Yeah.
No,
Huge.
that's huge. I think the group that I work with, I'm really lucky that they they come back, and it's not because I'm paying them a lot of money. But it's because they really have this bond, like the crew, like just they just really like each other. I mean, I might go so far as saying they love each other, but and so
Mm,
because of that, like, and my shoots aren't super long. That's the other thing. Like, I know as a director, like how many pages a day that my DP and I can get. And so we will, do our best to maximize the number of pages. And my gaffer by this point, who uh also just my DP and my gaffer just like totally get along and love each other. And
that's important.
so it's like so I know, like, okay, I can get X number of pages in a day, which means I can do a 12-day shoot, and this is how we're going to break it up. Here's how many, like, if we have a company move, here's how we're doing it. And so I think that's how. And I don't run crazy long days. So, like, the longest day I've ever done is a 14-hour day, and that was like 4 movies ago. And I still feel bad to this day that I did
Yeah.
that. But like, I've been able to make sure that like, even though a lot of indie productions will run like, because they have to 17, 18-hour days. And I'm just like, and then you burn the crew out. And I'm like, nope. So I run a set where like everyone's treated with respect. You know, I learn everyone's name. You know, they just, everyone just gets along and loves working together, and we don't burn them out, and we have fun. And when you do that, you'll get people, you'll find your tribe, like you'll find your group, right? Like you'll find the people who are your ride or dies, and they'll come back like over and over again because of that. And then and so that's how you do it. You get people who should be getting paid more because they're amazing, and do get paid more on commercial shoots and like, you know, other projects, but really love like stretching and being part of the creative team. And then you pay them whatever you can based on your budget.
Oh my God. No, a
That's the
perfect
secret.
example is I brought on this producer writer, Sushi Krishnan, on my show, and I got to UPM and kind of helped produce her last project. And it was the best set I've ever been on. Like, again, like treated everyone fair and you know, didn't overwork everyone, and like literally with the catering, like small things like that, really cared and did the best. Everyone walked away being like, oh, this was just the best set. So she's shooting a project in August. I'm going to shout it out because I think the message is really important. Waiting Room, and it talks about abortion rights. And I think that's really important to show. And it's funny because right when everything when America hit the fan with America, I was just thinking like, man, I want to be a part of a project that's supporting that message. I think we need to see that in the forefront of like a woman's experience.
100%. Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I really want to get involved, but I'm burnt out like right now, starting a new job, fundraising my film. Like I don't have time to write, produce, film, edit something at the moment. And she popped up in my inbox, and I was like, she's like, I wrote a script and I read it. I'm like, and this is exactly the project I want to do. And she's like, yeah, man, I'm going to have to like take out a lot of my own funding, like my own money for it, but it's worth it. And I was just like, girl, I just donated to it today. And I'm like, don't pay me. I'll be there 2 days on set, like done. Like, yeah, I'm here for it. But I'm sure she's gotten pretty much the same team back. And I know I'm not the only one. So that's just an example. I think that, you know, when you do treat your crew fair, everyone just wants to support you and come back. Yeah. So I think that's a really, really great point that you make. And I mean, that shows the kind of director and producer you are as well, to keep doing this. I mean, like how many, I guess it doesn't matter, but are you also writing and you know, putting this like year after year, your own films out? Like, it just sounds like you have a lot coming out too. And that's a place I'm excited to be at in my career one day. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have most of these projects I have writers on, and then either we'll collaborate or I'll come over and like we'll spend time like just being a creative producer and working through you know, the story. And then at some point I do usually need to take it and rewrite based on location. And so there's the one, Christmas at the Ranch and Mary and Gay, I actually rewrote pretty significantly. So I went ahead and took a writer credit on those just after it was sent in for whatever reason. Either the writer didn't have time, or maybe they just weren't like, I just knew the location a little bit better. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to take this and like finish it. And so, but like for something like I Hate New Year's or Season of Love, I'll just give a ton of notes on, or the Scare B&B movies that I'm doing. I'll just give a ton of notes on them and then just do like very slight rewrites based on like location.
Oh, that's really great. I mean, that way you're not, because I feel like it makes sense why you're able to like handle a lot more at one time, because you're not sitting there. Like I'm doing after our podcast some more revisions on my script again. And we all know we're happy with it where it's at, but still like the work just doesn't like stop. for like a
Right.
full thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I
So
have a couple that I've written like on my own. But
yeah.
for some odd reason, I just haven't quite produced them yet. But I will.
We gotta get that.
I know,
Get that
right?
out there. Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why.
I mean, I think timing too is like there's just when you'll feel it, I think, when you need to like
Yeah.
get it out there.
Yeah.
It won't be something you can ignore, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
And you gotta listen to it and go. So that's what I've learned. I'm like, you gotta do it right now then, get it done, get it out. Yeah.
Totally.
No, I think that's really cool in it. And that's awesome that you have a bunch of writers that you get to collaborate with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. It's great fun.
Another question that I've thought I'd ask is how have you been able to connect with various investors to keep, funding these
Yeah.
projects? And is it just like this one person that you showed, you know, what you could do and press them out of the gate and now they're just your forever investor? Like that's what I've heard in the
Yeah.
past, but what
Yeah.
if like you don't have that connection from the start?
Sure. So, speaking of crowdfunding, so before I made my first feature, I was doing shorts. And so I did quite a few crowdfunding or digital shorts. So I would crowdfund a little bit for those,
Uh-huh.
in addition to putting Tello funds behind them. So we would always go out to try and like get a little bit more. And, the, well, the first one I raised, I think I raised like, which was because it was a property that was already known. So this is not normal, but I had a filmmaker and two actresses who are unbelievably popular in the LGBTQ community. And so working with them helped me raise, I think we raised like 65,000 or something like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that was
Hell
the,
yeah.
yeah, that, well, actually that was, let me take that back. The first project I ever crowdfunded for, I think I raised like 15,000, like 1 5. Then the second project, I probably raised another 15. Then that one came and it was like 65, but again, it was because of the known people.
Right.
Um, and then so really what happened is when I was ready to like make my first feature and knew that I needed to figure out how to do equity financing, I actually went back to anyone who had given, I think it was like 750 or more to my crowdfunding campaigns. That's where I started. And
Smart.
I had a minimum investment. So the minimum investment was 5,000 that you could put into the that you could buy in, and then you could go above that. And then I also had like a really good friend um who just happened to be like, I want to help you. And so on my later movies, he actually found people who were like, had a little extra money sitting around and maybe wanted to invest in support projects. And so he would bring meetings and help. And so that's
Wow.
kind of how it first started. I had two mentors who really helped me understand how do you structure something for equity investing. And then I just started going through like who had given in the past, who had supported. I, put it out on, no, I didn't put it out on social media now that I think about it. But in the crowdfunding, we also had an investor section. And then I would
Mm,
always put like, if you'd like to give to this, please contact me personally, like send me a message. Because then you do have to go through paperwork and stuff like that. Some
right.
people just gave. They're like, nope, I don't want paperwork. Here's the money. And I was like, oh, okay. So
That was going to be
but
my
yeah,
next question. Like when you said equity crowdfunding, do you mean like traditional investor crowdfunding in that
no,
sense?
no.
Okay.
Which you can do. I think
Right.
Indiegogo and some other ones allow you to do equity investing crowdfunding. I did not go that route. I separated it. I did crowdfunding where you got perks and
Hmm.
you got to get invited to certain things. And then I did
Yeah.
investing, which you get an ROI on for your investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Got it.
kept those, but I just put it out there that I thought someone might have the capacity to give 5,000 or more, and I want to be able to unearth them. So it was a way for me to
Really get
unearth
that
those
contact.
people.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
Mm,
um, but it was like years of, kind of cultivating through crowdfunding. And then I was really lucky in that my movies, because of Tello, because I can put them on there, have made their money back. And so I would reach out to my investors and say, hey, would you like to roll your investment into my next movie? And like 80% of them every time have been like, yep, sounds good. So I've just been able to roll, and then I would send them the
Wow.
paperwork, and yeah. So I'm lucky that I've had people who are just like wonderfully supportive, who, they've invested in like 4 of my movies and, haven't seen a dime yet, but their money keeps, rolling over. So
Right. Right. That is really awesome. And I think in order, from what I'm hearing, it's just kind of like one of those things that you have to get started to get anywhere.
yeah.
With finding, those kind of contacts and people, like do a crowdfund, get put yourself out there and start to see where you can dig deeper to make those actual connections. I
Yeah.
think.
I sent like a message also to everyone on my Facebook contact. I don't super curate my Facebook. Like, so if I have
Yeah.
friends in common with someone else, I'm like, sure, let's be friends. And then I was like, you know what? I'm asking all these people for money if they wanted to invest. And so I put it in there, and I did find one person from it. So it's just like, I think the biggest thing is you can't be afraid to ask for it.
Right. And I think that's what's the hardest thing to do, is not feel like, oh, I'm asking someone for
Yeah.
movie money right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. But I think you have to build confidence too of what you're trying to make and do, and
Hmm.
just remind yourself, well, why are you even invested in this?
Right.
And I think that could help. I don't know. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying these things now, guys. Hopefully
No,
it's,
I mean, it's true. Like, you have to be like, it's
yeah.
okay, if they say no, but you're in no worse of a shape, just like submitting and phone calls. It's like, hey,
So
do you want to give? No. Oh, okay, cool. Think of me next time, or.
So Kristen, you haven't knocked on like all your doctors and dentist doors asking
I
for
have
money?
not. No, that
No.
would be kind of weird. I do think you have. I mean, it's yeah. It's a lot of people will be like, have your family give,
Yeah,
and my parents have given to my crowdfunding campaigns, and some family members have as well.
sure.
But yeah, I've never done the family thing for like angel investing in a movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think to get like an X amount, you need to try and like reach
Yeah.
outside of that network. Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be real fun for us. It's gonna be real great.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's part of the journey. That's what we're here for. Um, I want to talk a little bit more about the things you've directed, and just so I get to also learn more about you as a director, and I think where our community too can tune into your stuff, because I see that you did win also best director at the London Rain Dance Film Festival. Guys, she's just full of accolades, so I'm just gonna keep pimping her out. Um, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it because we love the Rain Dance Film Festival. Somewhere we'd love to land one day. We love Elliot
Yeah.
Grove.
Yeah.
He's amazing contact for us and has partnered with Femme a couple times. So he
Oh,
loves
cool.
independent filmmakers. And I think they just in general, they really support the
Yeah.
community. So yeah, you won an award for Maybell, so do you always do series? No, you don't. You do features as well. But I'm like, this is another
Right.
series, which is
Yeah. It
story.
was a web series.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
when I first started out, I did web series because I didn't have enough money to make a feature. So I was like, okay, well, what should I do? I'll do web series. And so,
Love it. Work with
yeah,
what
so
you
all of my
got.
early
Work with
work.
what you got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And really at that time too, it's what was, I don't know what the word is, but it's like what, it's what it's what I could make. And what kind of people were talking about a little bit, because like YouTube was still popping, and it was like, oh, like, Issa Rae made her jump,
Yes.
because she had Awkward Black Girl, and that went, and Broad City. So there was a lot of examples of things that had hopped.
Yeah.
Um, And so, yeah, so that's what we would put out. And it would be, again, and I needed original content for my site. So we would put out
Mm-hmm.
a new episode each Sunday. And it was only 5 or 6 minutes, but it was at least something new we could talk about,
Right.
that we were getting out there. And so at first, Tello was exclusive, and it was really hard. We're non-exclusive now, but it's hard to license, and we didn't license content.
Because
It
yeah,
had to be
that's super
originals.
expensive. Yeah, I can
So
sure.
that was why we kind of, like, could make something that's a half an hour, and then you chop those up into 5 minutes, and then I have a month and a half of content. So that was kind of the thought process around that now, or back then when we did it. And then in
Okay.
2000, yeah, and then in 2019, I realized I had 2 Emmy nominations, or three, excuse me, 3 Emmy nominations. I'd worked with some amazing people, and I still could not get press to cover me to save my life. I was not taken seriously
Oh my
as
God.
an SVOD. And so I was like, if I'm going to get taken seriously, I got to move to features, and I have to figure out how to fundraise. Like, I need to figure this stuff out if I'm going to continue, because this isn't sustainable.
Right.
Um, and
Happens
so
to a
that,
lot of directors, I think. It's like, all right,
yeah,
I've done the short films, I've done this, but you still don't see me as even like remotely
yeah,
successful director.
yeah. One part of it was like no one would cover Tello, like, so
Mm,
because no one wanted, no publications were covering shorts,
like
again,
shorts. Yeah,
unless you had some huge name, or, you know,
totally. Totally. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I think that's also what pushed us to just work and learn from our first feature because I feel like it's a medium that you can like kind of put out there and get more PR for and like, yeah,
Oh,
really
absolutely.
showcase your chops in a way. So
Yeah.
I see why you felt that way because that's also why we're like, we're gonna just go and do it. Like, sure,
Yeah.
we've been working and talk like just it's a longer form medium. It's a giant ship. I'm not saying like it's not it has its own things, but you're telling a story at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to. So that's so then was Tello like founded right from the start of your career? It sounds like just because all these like other shorts and web series that you've created, you've kind of just like funneled the two like hand in hand. So was it kind of like
Yeah.
a
No,
birth
that's
of
exactly it. Yeah.
yeah.
I lived in LA in my early 20s for like 3 years. I worked for the Writers Guild and Regency
Oh
Productions,
my
and
gosh.
then I ended up getting out of the industry for just bizarre life changes happened, and then I ended up going into nonprofit work. And so,
Oh my
I
gosh.
worked for the yeah, and then I ended up in the midst of that nonprofit work, really missing film and filmmaking and storytelling. And so that's when, I I sort of like, with another filmmaker friend of mine, co-founded Tello Films, and did that as a side gig. So that was just sort of like my plucky fun side gig, which is probably also why it was like short form content, because it's all I could,
Oh
shoot
my
at the
gosh.
time, because
I
I'd have to
know.
shoot on weekends. So
Yep. I
yeah,
know
and
that life.
so yeah,
Yep.
so I so that's kind of how Tello was founded. So it was always going to be kind of like my fun side short gig, and until it became not my side fun short gig,
But
you know.
that's I feel like everyone's goal. Like when you
Yeah,
can't just afford to do this full time, it's like, well, keep at it and it will
right, right.
become what it's gonna become of what you
Yeah,
make out of it.
totally.
So that's very
Yeah,
inspiring to hear because that's like what
yeah,
I hope to do. Like right now I'm
yeah,
learning and I'm excited to be where I'm at. And it's a grind, but that's life. Like I wanna I think too, like I think nonprofit organizational work is really fascinating. I was even trying to get in that space for filmmaking and see if I could be a program coordinator. I was literally like trying to find my way of where I could like learn and amplify my project management skills and all of that. But I think you do learn a lot when you're put into working something outside of the industry and then you're like, but I'm still a creative. So you come back like,
totally.
so I think it everything works, I think as well hand in hand. That's just like
Yeah,
the beauty of life. So
so true.
are you in LA, back in LA or have you
I
ventured off?
split my time. Yeah, I split my time between Nashville and Los Angeles. So I'm in LA like usually like 2 weeks every other month or 1 week a month.
Nice.
It just like, yeah, it just sort of just depends on what I have, what my
Right.
schedule is, what meetings I need to take. So
No, very cool. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
We like to know when our listeners are in town, or I mean, our listeners are guests and friends of the show, because I think it's that's why we like living here for sure. We
Yeah.
get to meet up with people when we can. So yeah, that's awesome. And do you like Nashville?
I do. I grew up here and my family's here and my friends are here. And so I very
Oh,
much, it's a great city. Yeah.
no, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
is it a filmmaking hub? Is there like,
Not as much as I wish it was a little like I have found my like film family here. For the most part, I bring a couple people in from LA, but I've finally, after years of scratching around, so it has become a little bit more indie friendly. I think it
yeah.
was it's in LA, if I was looking, I have a film family in LA too, but like if someone couldn't do it schedule wise, I would go on Craigslist and post a job for like a second AC, and within 24 hours, I'll have 40 people who've done
Yep.
amazing work email me their resume, and I'm like, oh my, you do not find that. I think that is unique to LA, maybe
Yeah, I agree.
New York, I'm not sure, but the bench is so deep, and people are like, I'm not working, I'll do it, and they don't have an
Right.
ego around taking a smaller rate. I think sometimes in Nashville they do. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's been really hard for me, is to get people who don't see it as like an ego hit to take a smaller rate, because that's what I have in my budget. So I wish it was a little bit deeper, or people were hungry. Like one of the things I used to put in LA, and I try and put it in here, is like, hey, this is a great networking opportunity. Like you will get other jobs from working on my job. And that's actually happened to a good
Right.
number of people. um, and I try to get that, and that's super valuable in LA, because that's
Oh my
the
God, it's
currency.
everything. Yeah.
But I don't find that Nashville has people who maybe are as hungry for that, or no, or I don't know,
It makes
or it could
no,
be a
it
rate
does
thing.
make sense. I could see that. And that's again, no, we what's been cool about this show is talking to people who aren't also just here in LA, like where other film hubs are and what it's like out there, because we live in a day and age where you can make a movie in other states and be
Totally.
profitable, and it's
Totally.
definitely possible. But
Yeah.
I do love LA for reasons such as what you just said. It's like easy to find crew. I
Yeah.
can connect with people. But yeah, now we live in a virtual space too. So it's awesome to like
Yeah.
have this podcast and meet people like you, Kristen. So that being said, where can our community find you? List all your socials, Tello Films,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, so I am on social, on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Christin Tello, and that's Christin, Christin Tello. Although it's not actually my last name. My last name is Baker, but I will have a lot of people think my last name is Tello, but it is not. Um, so, and then Tello Films is just Tello, like hello with a T. Tello Films on Instagram and Twitter. And then Tello and my production company, A Baker Production, have Facebook page. I don't know if they're fan pages or what, but
Yeah,
they're
pages.
pages
Totally.
that I post on quite a bit. And
Oh,
so
good to
people
know.
can, and then Tello Films is just the URL, and we have apps on all the major platforms. So you can download our lovely little app onto your smart device and
Yes.
OTT television.
Yes, so that's where it's at. This is where we've
Yeah.
arrived. And I think yeah, listeners, go check her out, check out her work, check out the app, download it all, like, subscribe, all the things. And it was such a pleasure to speak with
So
you
nice
today,
to
devoting your
chat with you as well.
Sunday. So thank you for
Absolutely.
making
My favorite
time.
topic. So
Ah,
happy to always chat.
No, yeah, we'll definitely invite you back on. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. It's we love
Happy to.
having guests who are transparent and willing to share. It's, I think, something that we try to do back too. So
Yeah.
thank you. It's really
Awesome.
important. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to FemmeRegard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Fem Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at FemmeRegard.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.